but a little bit delayed, but we're starting, and everybody's here that needs to be here for this right now. And if those who were expected to attend couldn't attend, we'll try to catch up with them and share with them what we talk about during today's webinar. But thank you all for joining us for the KPCCI Planning Grantee Community Checkbox regular and recurring webinar. And our lead presenter today is Dola Gabriel with KU's Center for Community Health and Development. And I'm going to turn things over to Dola. I'll be here in the background paying attention to the chat and bringing questions aloud as needed, and trying to help out in other things, other ways behind the scenes. But send a chat message through if you'd like, and I'll try to respond to it. And if there's an opportunity for you to open your audio and speak, then please do that as well. But Dola, I will turn it all over to you and let us know some of the wisdom that you have to share with us today.
Great, Chad. Thank you so much. And again, this is Dola with KU, the Center for Community Health and Development. We, Priya and I, Priya Vanchi, who is also on the line today, she and I, along with other team members from KU, are evaluation partners with Greenbush as it relates to the KDAD's KPC project that you all have all received funding from to support your community work. And so today, what we're going to talk about is the community checkbox, which also includes a workstation. And in the community checkbox, it's the evaluation system. And so you'll hear us talk about accomplishments, and those are things that you do in the community. We'll be collecting that information and providing evaluation to it. With that, I also want to ask again, I do want like a yes or no in the chat to make sure that you guys have you all have access, you know how to get to the checkbox. So if you could say yes or no in the chat, that will be helpful to us this morning.
Yes.
And so who was that? If you could type it in, do you know how to type in the chat? If you would say yes, so we have a visual, that'd be great. Or tell us who you are so we can.
This is Judy, and I can get onto the toolbox.
Okay, and Judy, what community are you with?
Grant County Community Foundation.
Wonderful. So Grant County, yes. Anyone else able to get into the checkbox or no? How about Nathan? Nathan, are you able to get into the checkbox? And maybe he's trying to figure out how to respond. Jennifer? Okay, Joanna, thank you.
Hi, this is Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
I just probably need to develop a new login.
Okay. So no. Okay. So what will happen, those of you who said no, after the training today, Priya and I will reach out to you and make sure that you have access to the checkbox. And is that all of the communities represented? Judy Joy, I didn't hear from Nathan. Is Nathan also with Grant County?
No, Nathan is not with Grant County.
Okay.
I didn't hear a response or see a response from Christy. Was she able to get on chat, or do you know, from Barber County?
She had, I think Christy had written in the chat, but we couldn't get audio to figure out. Her computer was giving her difficulty. but I haven't seen, let's see, haven't seen a message from Christy about this question.
Okay, so we'll reach out to her.
Nathan is
Just one
responding in the chat, Dola, and Priya is connecting with him on that.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Thank you all for that. Well, now my slides won't scroll. Just one second. Everything's happening this morning. Just one second. Now, Chad, it's asking me to stop sharing. Why is it doing that? Go to meeting is asking me to stop sharing. Why? Jeez.
I can't see anything on my end that indicates a problem, Dola.
Okay, just one second. Okay, I'm just going to talk through the slide and then we'll go to the live screen because it's not letting me share my slides this morning. So one of the things we want to emphasize is the importance of documenting the story. And documenting is what is called when you're entering accomplishments into the community checkbox. And we'll have a live viewing in just a moment. But the importance of documenting or collecting the data is because it helps you make decisions about the processes that you're implementing. So from implementing strategies into the community, you'll be building a logic model soon. It also helps you create a record of what's going on, like a history of what's going on as it relates to what you're doing in the community. It'll allow you the opportunity to highlight your successes for within your coalition, in your community, and to other stakeholders and to volunteers. And it'll also allow you to show how persons can be engaged in the strategies and the activities that you are doing in your community. And last but certainly not least, it also allows you to have some accountability. So not that we don't want to use the checkbox to see that you're doing work, but we want to use the checkbox to show accomplishments that you are experiencing in your community. And then we want to be able to look at those accomplishments and based on the goals that you stated that you wanted to reach, and based on the goals that later on you'll be reviewing some data as it relates to your community. And so we want to be able to see that those accomplishments are helping you to address those data points that will be shared with Greenbush or from Greenbush, and also to help you to establish some sustainability. Because right now we know we have funding, and then later on when funding is not available, or for you to be able to access different types of funding, that those things help you create sustainability. So that is the importance of documenting the story. What we're going to address today is we're going to be talking about collecting the data, capturing the data, categorizing or coding the data. And we'll be talking about how you're going to communicate, or how you'll be able to communicate that data out, just as I mentioned earlier. And we're also share the different ways that you're able to receive technical assistance from KDADs and even from each other. So I'll go now to the live screen since my slide doesn't want to participate. So most of you stated that you were able to access the CCB. So I just wanted to, for those of you who maybe have not, the URL is myctb.org. And I'm sure you guys have done plenty of Google searches. And I'll just cheat a little bit and use my saved link there. So once you type in your URL and you're all signed in, you'll see your name at the top of the screen. And the one green button that you'll have access to is the Kansas Prevention Collaborative. So you'll select that button. And what you'll be able to see then and what you see now is what we call the landing page. Now, one of the things that you'll be seeing that you won't see when you guys are signed in are these links. And all throughout the presentation today, I'll kind of make reference to that. You can only see them now because of the level of access that I have. But for you guys, when you sign in, you should only see the KPCCI Collaboratory link. And once again, what we call this page, when you sign in, is the landing page. So the first part of the training today is we will be addressing the workstation. The workstation is where we communicate with each other. So you see that when I click on the KPCCI Collaboratory link, it turns blue. Select that. And again, you won't be able to see these other links here down the left side. And when you get to plan and cohort documents, you'll only be able to see your particular community link. This is called the workstation. So in the workstation, the first three buttons at the top are buttons where you will find your online documents. And these are your online required documents. And let me take a peek at the slides here. So we're talking about collecting. This is where we collect information. So we're collecting information from you guys as it relates to items that are required. As I stated earlier, your reporting forms, you'll have a logic model, you'll have a couple of different forms that you'll complete. And this is where we're collecting that data and you're sharing it back to us. When I say us, I mean the KPC contractors and KDADs. So what I'll do today is go through each one of these buttons. The first one is a web form, or where web forms are housed. Any of the web forms, you'll select them and you'll complete them online. So I'll just show you one in particular, the top one. It's a web form, again, because you're completing it online. All of the information, you'll just scroll down and answer appropriately. Once you complete completing the web form, you scroll all the way down. You'll find a save button, and this is just an example today, but you'll save. I won't save it today since we're not completing anything. And what it will do, it will take you back to a blank form. And the question that we get all the time is, how do we get back to our form once it's been saved? So you'll actually go back just as if you're opening up a new form. You'll go to the top, and it depends on the browser that you're using. Usually, save and cancel is already there for you, but you saw I had to click on the down arrow. You'll tell it to cancel, and this is what you do when you're trying to find the information that you've already entered. And then you'll see the listing of just the forms that you have completed. And that's how you're able to go back and assess your and look at your online forms that you've already completed. That's true for the KPCCI web forms, those forms that we just looked at, and it's also true for the quarterly report. So I'll just open the quarterly report. You'll see that it's not in a listing. It's only one report behind it, but the quarterly report, you access it to complete it, and you access it to view data that you already entered the same way. You'll just open it up and select cancel. The KPCCI deliverable templates are also required forms. These are not online forms. These are forms that are Word documents, and you will open them up, download them to your computer, complete them, save them to your computer, and then upload them back to your link. And I'm going to go through that process with you now. So one of the forms that you all will be completing soon is the logic model. So we'll open the logic model. And you see it downloaded here on my screen. I'm going to open it up. So you can see it's a Word document. And it's taking its time opening because I'm trying to show you all. Just 1 second. Well, when it opens, I'm just going to close it back, but it will open up as a Word document. You'll complete the information, and here it comes. I don't have much patience this morning. There. It will open up as a Word document. I'm going to, just for the sake of time. And once you guys are, if you're familiar with working with Microsoft products and you're attaching a document, so here it is over here. And I'll just test in there. Then you'll save it to your computer. And don't pay attention to the organization on my computer. I'm sure you guys organize much better than I do. And I'm going to save it to my desktop so I can go back and get it. This is one of the areas that we have the most questions in, so I really want to take the time to show you guys exactly how this should work. And you can go back after we complete the training today. Chad will upload this to our to the workstation, and you'll be able to go back and view it. So I'm sure you'll have a place where all your work is completed for KDAD, so we'll go there. Mine's for work is what you see there. So we'll save it. Blinking at me because I was rushing it. So once it's saved, and I'm going to show you how to upload it. So whenever you're using a deliverable template, we'll go through that process that I just showed you. You'll go down and find your community, and I'll just use Barber County as an example. So if I'm with Barber County, I'll click on my community link. I'll go and I find my document that I just saved. And I'm just going to pick one because they. So I select the document that I want to save. I'll select it twice and it should, I'm sorry, my computer is moving quite slow today. So one thing that I'm exhibiting is click-itis. You should give your computer time or else it freezes up like it's doing right now. But I think, is it anybody online today that doesn't understand the process of going and finding a document and uploading it back to a specific area? I'm going to cancel out of this for the sake of time. I think I clicked it too much. But your document, once you chose the file, you would say, okay. Beautiful. I'm going to select cancel. Once you said okay, then it would upload here in this area. So I hope that this was a good example. My computer was going a little slow, and so you didn't see the full effect of what happens. But if you guys have any questions, please contact Priya or myself, and we'll be glad to go back through the process with you. But those are the three documents at the top, the three required form areas at the top. The two on the outside are online, and the one in the middle is one that you save and download, and then you'll upload it back to your document link. On the third row, what we have are the KPCCI resource documents, and there you'll find examples of these three forms, more than three here, but the forms that are represented behind these three buttons. And that gives you an opportunity to complete the form and save it to your computer for your files before you begin to complete the actual online forms. For the quarterly report, that form has to be completed in its entirety before you're able to move out of that particular form, before you can save the information there. And for the web forms, on those forms, you can save and go back to those, but they're still pretty lengthy, and you'll want to have all of the information there for you. So we've placed those there. And I think now that I will go on and move to the CCB, because I believe you guys have already had this part of the orientation in the previous training. Is that correct, Chad? As I got started here, I think that I'm repeating. I think that's correct, and I think Chad wasn't. Is that right, Chad?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay. So specific today, what we want to address is the community checkbox. And we did talk previously in another training about the workstation. So if you guys have any questions about the workstation as we move along, just please feel free again to let us know. But today's training is specifically about the community checkbox, and those online forms that we talked about are indirectly related to the accomplishments that you achieve in your community. So it was still very pertinent information as it relates to what the training today is going to be about. So this is the community checkbox, and I don't know if you saw me earlier. When you click on the blue link at the top, you get to the community checkbox by selecting the link that comes right down under it where it says KPCCI CCB. That CCB, of course, stands for Community Checkbox. You will begin with the form, the accomplishment form. This is where you create. Once you create several accomplishments, you'll be able to view those accomplishments under view. Once you get data based on the accomplishments that you're entering here, you'll be able to request KU to create graphs for you. And then you'll be able to see a dashboard. And the dashboard, as well as the accomplishments, you'll be able to see accomplishments from other grantees that are planning grantees. You'll be able to see the implementation grantee accomplishments as well. And the same thing for the dashboard. You'll see a compilation of graphs based on all of the data that has been entered into the community checkbox by not just yourselves, but also from other grantees. So where we'll start is everyone has the question, what do I document? And what I'm going to do is go back to presenting from our, well, I'll try to. I remember earlier it didn't work. Let's try it one more time. We'll present from the actual PowerPoint because I think that that'll be important for you to be able to see. Okay, so what do I document? You guys will receive a training, I think it's in the next couple of weeks, about the SPIF phase. And some of you may already understand the SPIF phase. But anything that you're doing in any of these areas, so from assessment to capacity building to planning, which is the areas that you guys will be addressing with your funding, those are the things that you'll be able to that will become accomplishments that will be entered into the community checkbox. You might, with the It Matters strategy, you may be doing a little bit of implementation based on that. And then today is evaluation. So anything that you do with Greenbush or with KU could be considered an accomplishment. Or if you are wanting to evaluate something in your community and you reach out to either one of us to help you to address your request, then those things would be considered evaluation activities. So anything related to the SPIF phase is what will be entered into the community checkbox. And let's see if it will allow me to switch my slide here. Be great. I really apologize for the technical difficulty of not being able to show you the actual screen. Let's try. Let's see here.
Dola, this is Chad. If you want to email to me the PowerPoint slides, I could see if it makes any difference coming from my computer.
I think I figured out a way to make it work, and
okay.
If that gets too cumbersome, I'll take a break and do it.
Okay.
So we'll have this slide here is always available through all of our presentations, and you can also print it out just for ease of having it available to you. But these are questions that you can ask yourself when you are wondering what should go into the community checkbox and what should not. I won't read through all of them, but the first two in particular, I think is where you guys will be. The number 3 and 4 is more, well, number 3 could be more as it's related to implementation, but these are questions that you can ask yourself. So of course, we just talked about the split phase. You guys will be doing a lot of meeting with potential coalition persons in your community, community partners. Those are activities that can be added to the community checkbox. If you hire new staff, if you are a new staff person yourself, those will be entered into the community checkbox. And Jennifer, I can see the chat. That means you've been around a while. Yes, those activities will be coded, but it's something that Priya and I do. So in the past, coding was done by both the community, by the grantees and KU staff, but we've come a little ways, and now only KU will be coding those activities. The other things, while you're in the assessment period, you'll also be providing surveys to the communities. If you are anything that you're doing as an activity related to the grant or as an activity related to the spit phase, you can stop and ask yourself these questions, when you're thinking about whether or not it should go into the community checkbox. Later on, we'll become a little bit more specific as we're talking about the accomplishment protocol. But for now, this will give you some questions to ask yourself. And I'm going to go back to my screen here. So now we'll get into looking at the actual form. And I'm sorry, I'm moving a little fast. So to get to the form, which we call it the accomplishment form, you'll go to Create and select Accomplishment. This is the accomplishment form. One of the things I want to note is down the side, you'll see the asterisk. So for just about every question has an asterisk. That means it's a required, we require a response. On quite a few of them that are required, you may not have a response. You can always scroll down, and I'll show you an example of that as we go through the form. You can scroll down. We usually have not applicable or other as an option, so you just have to respond that way when it's not applicable. And then you see the question marks here. When you hover over them, you'll have help text. And so if at any time you are viewing something that maybe it's not helpful or you still have a question, please reach out again to Priya and I. We're always here to help you. I recommend that you use the calendar here because it will give you the appropriate way to enter the date. You won't get an error message when you're ready to save it. So we would use the calendar to select the date. If you have access, this is one of the reasons I wanted to make sure everyone has access, your name should be found in this list. And so we'll go through, Priya and I, after this training to make sure that your names have been added to the list so that you're able to select your name. I think right off the bat, I didn't see Judy.
No, and there I am.
Yeah, there you are. Great. So,
Kessler.
I'm sorry?
Judy Kessler, right above where you have your
Right
point.
above. Okay, great. Great. So you will go through.
Christy there. This is Joy. Is Christy on there? I didn't notice her name.
Is it
Nope,
Christy McKenzie?
nope. Christy couldn't.
Okay. So if you would type it in the chat for us, Joy, that'll help Priya and I to go back. And Christy was also, we didn't hear to know if she had access, so
Oh,
that
wait,
might be
there
it as
she is.
well.
I see her. She's right there.
Christy Kerfoot, wonderful.
Okay.
Well, that means she has access as well. Great. So one question that will not change is what initiative are you affiliated with? And it's the only option there as well. You guys are planning grantees. So whenever, it doesn't matter what kind of accomplishment you're doing, when you get to which KPCCI project does this activity support or relate, you all will select planning grantee. The next question, your organization coalition, you'll go through this wonderful list and find your coalition. One thing I will say, you can begin selecting, you can, when you start typing in, I was looking for Rice County, RI, sorry. When you select R, or I, since Impact wants to stay there, the list will scroll down to the alphabet that you're beginning to type, and you'll be able to find your coalition there as well, like that. So it's not, the list is very long, but we've made it easy for you to be able to find your particular organization or coalition. And then where it says, please check the appropriate response, of course, you'll always be the planning cohort 3, at least during this funding cycle. So these items will not change. It's probably the easiest for you to answer. One of the things that we want to know is, are you working with other coalitions? Of course, at this time when you're first starting, the answer will probably be no. But later on, when you begin to implement or in another funding cycle, when you select yes, we have an opportunity for you to select who the other coalitions are that you're working with. If by chance the coalition that you're working with is not listed here, when you select other, there is another list that shows up. Now, the listing here are persons that we know who are engaged in entering data into the community checkbox. That's who's listed here. So if your organization that you're working with is an unfunded community and they're not, or they haven't received training in the checkbox, then probably their name would not be there. And so no worries, you would just select other and then continue answering the questions. Which counties were involved? So you would select your county, of course. If you were Barber County, you would select Barber. If you were working with Rice County, so Barber and Rice County work together, then you do have the option to select two different answers or responses here. So you would select Barber, and then use the control key and select the other county. Well, my mouse is, I think it's because I have a lot of online issues going on here, so it's not responding. But you use the control key to select more than one, and you also use the control key to deselect. There, it worked that time. The same thing for zip codes. Use the control key. You can, of course, just select one, or use the control key to select more than one, or to deselect. Okay. For the description, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint slide. We use what we call an accomplishment protocol, and I want to be sure that you're able to go back and view it. So here we are. For the description, when you're completing the description, which is the same thing as the accomplishment, we want you to use what we call the accomplishment protocol. And that is, we want you to tell us who did what, who, with whom they did it with, why, and when. So the accomplishment protocol is where it's how we base our evaluation. There will be an example coming up, but for example, let's say Judy. Judy, tell me again what coalition you're with.
Grant County.
Grant County. So I'm going to type an example in the chat. So Judy with Grant County met with DOLA KU to discuss evaluation for Grant County. This is an example. And we met because Judy wants to provide a report to her coalition. And your when can go anywhere, but we met on August 14th. So all of those components should be in each of your descriptions. Even if you're posting something regarding media. So if you made a Facebook post, so who was the audience maybe you were addressing in the post? Why was the post? Why was the information in the post necessary to share? When you posted it, and again, I just said why. So you would only do this when we're talking about social media posts. That would only be when you're providing information. Let's say you're addressing alcohol in your community and you're posting something about from the It Matters campaign. That would be something that would be an accomplishment. But if you are having a coalition meeting and you're wanting to draw attention and make sure that all of your followers know that, then that's not something that you would need to post. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. The thing that I want to make sure that we are aware of now is using that accomplishment protocol every time that you enter something into the community checkbox. I have another slide I'm going to share with you. And I won't go through this particular slide, but this gives you things to avoid, which I alluded to a little bit earlier when I talked about your meetings. We want you to be able to tell your story, but we're not using the checkbox to make sure that you're doing the work that you said you were going to do. So you don't have to use it for administrative tasks. And then if it's something that you're planning to do, that's not necessarily an accomplishment yet. An accomplishment is something that, of course, has already occurred. So I wanted to make sure that that is in our slide presentation. I'm going to put up one more. Actually, I'm not going to put that one up right now. So those two slides were related to the description. What should go in the description? Now we're going to move on to the next question, is this the first time the activity has occurred? And for most of your activities, because you're just starting, it's going to be yes. Where it might be no is, well, let's say that you are getting ready to begin surveys in your community. So the first time that you sit down and have an interview with someone will be the first time. Of course, any time after that will be no. I was trying to find an example. When you get to the implementation process, which probably won't be in this funding cycle, it's when you would be needing to consider, is this a first time or not? So we won't get into that right now, but just note that for most of your activities, it will be the first time. And if you have questions about answering, is this the first time, just again, feel free to reach out to us. What outcome area does this activity relate to? You'll see this question right now. The way you'll be able to answer this question is based on anything that you're doing to support your community. Once you complete your logic model and you receive your data from Greenbush, it will narrow down. So at this point, you're able to answer this question by whatever it is that you are addressing right now. Where this question narrows down is when you get to the SPIF phase, based on what you're entering in your accomplishment here. If it's assessing the community, if you're building your capacity, if you're building your coalition, you're looking for funding, anything that comes under capacity building, you'll be doing a lot of planning. And so you'll select the SPIF phase again, based on what you're entering into your description. However, if you're implementing something in your community, you'll get a drop down. You won't get a drop down any other questions on any of the other SPIF phase areas except for implementation. But what I mean by a drop down is that it'll ask you a few more questions. So it becomes, we want to know, okay, if you're implementing something, then what's the specific outcome? So if you said that you were implementing something based on alcohol, then we want to know, was it past 30-day use? Was it binge drinking? So we just have a few more specific questions to ask you. And then if it was alcohol and you implemented a particular strategy, which you guys probably won't be doing right now, we're asking you, was it media? You might be doing the It Matters campaign. So you would select media awareness. And I don't know if you saw, but when I selected media awareness, which will happen on any of the other 3 areas as well, it'll give you a few more questions to answer. So we're narrowing down to get to specifically what it is that you're doing. And so if you said media awareness and it's a strategy, then we have a list of strategies here for you to select from. Any questions? I know that was quite a bit. Okay, there being none. The next question that we'll get to, I'm going to take a peek over here at my presentation, make sure I'm not missing anything. We want to specifically share with you. Okay. The next question is, which sectors were primarily involved in supporting or implementing the activity? And so we're not asking you which sectors are engaged in your coalition meetings, or which sectors that would be it, are engaged in your coalition meetings. We're asking you that based on the accomplishment in this area, which sectors were involved, and that's where you would indicate. And again, you can dual select by using the control button. So if you had someone from the business community and someone from your civic or volunteer information engage in an activity with you, then you would select those two. The length of activity, you're going to record the time that it took for you to complete your accomplishment that you described up here in the description. So if it was an hour, if it was 30 minutes, we want you to indicate that here, and you'll see the conversion chart for how to indicate minutes or hours behind the help button. So we ask it that you use that. Frequency, I don't know if you guys have heard or not, but on Fridays at the end of every week, you're requested for everything that you've done in that week is your reporting period. And on Fridays is when all of your entries for that particular week should be recorded into the community checkbox. So for this question, when we're asking you how many times was this completed in the reporting period, the reporting period that we're referencing is the week. And so if you did, again, it's more towards when you begin implementing strategies, you could implement a strategy more than one time in a week. Normally, especially during this period of planning and assessing and building your capacity, it's only going to be, your answer is going to be one, which is why we've indicated it there for you. So this is just about how many times you've accomplished this particular accomplishment in the week that you're reporting on. If your accomplishment is based on any type of media, then we have a listing here of different types of media that you may have used. So if you posted something on Facebook, of course you would select Facebook. If you were able to place a billboard in your community, we have billboard there. If you handed out brochures at a fair or some community event, then there's the opportunity for brochure. So any kind of media that you use as it relates to what you're reporting in your accomplishment is how this question is answered. Amount of media, which is another one where we have quite a few questions. So amount of media is directly related to how you're answering type of media above. So for a billboard, usually the company that you engage with to place a billboard in your community can tell you how many persons are likely to pass by that billboard, and that's where you would get your data from a billboard. Brochures are easy. If you passed out 50 brochures, then that's going to be your answer for amount of media. Facebook and other social media platforms have what they call analytics. And Chad and Kayla at WSU are great resources if you don't know how to read or get to your social media analytics in order to be able to answer this question and for other things that you might use it for. They're a great resource for that. I think those are the three areas. Newspaper, when used, we have a newspaper when you select, well, I need to add it. We do have a link for newspaper where we have access to daily newspapers and county newspapers in each of your counties that we have. And so you can use the number that's related to there, and we'll add it. Actually, here it is. I went to the wrong help text. So when you select on the help text for amount of media and your answer is newspaper, if it's your daily newspaper or your weekly newspaper, that link will take you to information where you'll find your county, the newspaper that you use, and then we ask that you use that particular population number that will be found there. And so that is how you would answer amount of media. Who were the target participants served? This is one of those questions where, especially when you're talking about surveying or building your capacity, it's probably not applicable. So you would just scroll down and select not applicable. When you begin implementing or you do have specific target audiences, then you would just select the appropriate response. All right. So now we're going to go to the question, number of individuals served or reported. And it's another question that usually has quite a bit of questions related to it. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to provide assistance in answering this question. Let's say, for example, you guys are again in that planning, you're surveying, you're accessing, and you're building your capacity. You may not have a particular number of persons that you serve, just like you may not have a particular target audience, and so the answer would be 0. But if you provided a survey to a person, then you have served that person, and so the answer would be 1. But if, for example, you were talking about media, social media could go out to, 50 or more persons. And so based on the analytics, the amount of, it's also going to be able to tell you how many persons saw it. Or based on the number of brochures, if you know you handed out 50 brochures, then you would have served 50 persons. And so that's how you're going to answer that question when it comes to media. That's usually one of the more difficult answers that people, this is one of the more difficult questions that people have questions about. I think I said that 100 times a different way, but I think you guys get what I'm saying. So anybody that you served, anybody that you provided information to is who you served. Now, once this is answered, any number above 1, then you have a next step. But you can see right now we're at the end of the form. So you can opt to select save, which is something that I would do. When you select save, it'll take you out of the form, and I'll show you in a few moments how to get back to the form. But so that we stay in the vein of answering the number of individuals served, any answer here, 1 or above, you're going to scroll back up or go find the document, the accomplishment form again if you opted to select save. But you're going to answer add participant's description. And what happens here is we want to know, we're collecting the demographics of the persons that you serve. And so we know that if it's social media, or if you were at an activity, it's a large community event, and you were passing out brochures, you're probably not going to have the demographics of the persons you served, but we still do want to know the number. And so let's say it was 25 persons that you served, so you're going to answer 25. Right now, you're probably not going to have new participants. That's, again, more related to when you begin implementing strategies in your community. So right now, it's number served, and you won't know the specific demographics, but we do still need the form completed. So you'll use race unknown, gender unknown, age unknown. However, when it's a smaller event, you've actually invited people, or you're having a town hall, and maybe you have sign-up sheets, you can ask, Greenbush has placed templates in the workstation to help you collect this particular demographic information. And so when you do that, you will complete your number served. You'll just, based on the data that you've collected, you'll complete this form. And this is important to all of us. You won't complete anything below the black line. This information is completed because we use it for federal reporting and funding that comes into the state to provide the funding that you're using is based on some of this demographic information. So that's an important tab to complete. So I'm going to take a breath here, and everybody take a brain reprieve here. We're at the end of the document, how to complete an accomplishment form, how to complete an accomplishment in the community checkbox. And if you just give me a moment, I'll look at my slides and make sure I've covered everything. Sure.
On this document, for the up at the very top where you first started the event that we're documenting. If you're driving, you know, like last week I drove 13 hours to get to the training in Lawrence. And is that driving time something I document?
No, it is not. Those are what we call administrative tasks, and that's a great question. So driving to an event, emailing someone, taking a phone call, those are all administrative tasks to get you to an accomplishment. So your accomplishment in driving to the event was that you actually received the training. So receiving the training is an accomplishment. Once you email someone and you guys actually connect and you receive information or provide information, that's an accomplishment. The same thing for, you know, answering the phone. So let's say another example is gathering the information to complete a required report. That's an administrative task, but actually completing the report is the accomplishment. Does that help?
Somewhat.
How can I make it clearer for you?
It seems like those are all activities that you do. It's kind of.
So for example, I'm providing this training to you today. I'm actually providing the training. That's my accomplishment. But before I could provide the training, I had to talk with Chad to make sure he was going to be online. We had to have you guys sign in. Those are tasks that's going to help me to complete the actual training, which is the accomplishment. So I wouldn't document those type of activities. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. And when in doubt, document. So if you're ever in doubt and you're, you know, trying to get your information in, just document. You saw a question earlier, someone was asking, was this going to be coded? And all that means is the evaluation process, and that's what Priya and I do. So when in doubt, document. And as you go along, you'll receive feedback from us, and you'll get better in understanding what actually goes into the community checkbox. Okay. I do want to, I'm going to switch back to the presentation just so I can make sure that you guys have access to this particular, this kind of helps you narrow down a little bit more, identifying who participated and who was served. I talked a little bit about it, but I wanted to make sure that it's something that you can go back and look at when you actually get ready to enter your accomplishments into the community checkbox.
And Dola, I'll jump. This is Chad. I'll jump in real quick while you're looking at that. But as a follow up to the conversation with Judy just a moment ago, and Judy, I think that gives more kind of support to and a reason to why Dola did emphasize that the checkbox isn't going to be used as a monitoring or a compliance sort of a thing for you doing activities related to your grant project. There's more trust from KDADs and everybody that you're going to do the work needed to do the work that you've contracted to do with this grant. The drive time is a good example. You all are doing a lot of things that take a lot of time that might not show up in documentation in the community checkbox, but those are still important things that we know that are necessary, and appreciate the time that you do spend doing those things. As far as tracking those hours, that may be something that you need to do separately from the checkbox. And the example came to mind just in terms of financial reporting, like the budget worksheets that you need to do with KDADs. There may be reason, I don't know the details of that, but there may be a need to document the amount of hours and to keep track of those hours and to share those with KDADs at some point, maybe in the financial spreadsheets or financial reporting. So those are still important things. I guess what I'm saying is those are still important things to do. They're important things to keep track of, but they may not be things that require a community checkbox entry. I hope that makes some sense.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Chad. I think that's the great part about recording as well. You'll be able to go back and hear for understanding, and then again, between DECA, KU, really any of the contractors, we're all here to help you along the way. Earlier, when I mentioned what happens when you press save, so pardon me. So we were here in the form, and when you scroll down after you've completed it and you select save, it'll give me an error now because I don't have anything completed. But if you had it completed, you press save, it's going to take you back to the workstation or to the accomplishments. And it depends on your internet browser which one it'll take you back to. But in some cases, it'll take you back to this screen. And if it doesn't, the way you find the form that you just saved would be, I think I went a little too fast. You would go under view and under accomplishments. And this is where you would find the listing of all the accomplishments that people that communities who receive funding in the state of Kansas through this particular grant, you'll see their accomplishment entries. And so if we had created an accomplishment today, 8/14, it would be here at the top. And so you would just go back into that particular accomplishment if you opted. And I really, I would suggest that you press save until you get familiar with what it is you're doing to keep you from losing data, that you would press save, come back, find your accomplishment, come to edit, and then go to the add participant description and complete the accomplishment. You'll notice that you can, so even if you make an error or you need to change something in your particular form that you completed, you can do that same process. Go to the accomplishment list, select edit, and scroll down and find where it is you want to complete, what it is you wanted to change, and save. And again, this is where all of the accomplishments across for anyone entering data into the checkbox are found. So today I'm going to show you, you can see that that's quite a listing. And so if you want to just find the entries that you made for your community, you would, I'm going to show you where I was again, just so you know. We're under View and under Accomplishments. And you see Show Filters at the top. You'll select the date range that you want to view your accomplishments from. And we'll go ahead and use July. And so you can select any date range that you desire. Observer 1 will always remain Observer 1. You'll scroll down to Created By. I always get in trouble here because, let's see, make sure I select someone. So this listing is across initiatives. I want to make sure Penny Shuckman, they are in KPCCI, yes. Okay. So you'll select, it'll be your name. I happen to know that this person documents and they are in the KPCCI grant, so we'll use her as an example. You'll select Created By, you'll scroll down, or you can select your name. So then from that point, anything that you want to filter, right now we'll just do a simple filter. You just want to see all of the accomplishment entries created by you. And right now we're going to be looking at this person here. And you will scroll down to filter. And you'll see that in that date range, all of the accomplishments related to that particular date range are listed here. So that is how you'll be able to narrow down just to see your accomplishments, because that's quite an overwhelming list when you look at it and you're looking at everyone's and yours. So we have reviewed how to create accomplishment. We've looked at view accomplishments, and I've shown you how to filter. Now we'll look at graphs. And the graphs are, right now, they are housed behind folders right now and from now on, actually. They're housed behind folders related to your county. I immediately noticed that they are not in alphabetical order. We will have an upgrade shortly here by the end of the year, and you'll be able to find your county in alpha order. But right now, you'll look for your county, and I'll use Feeney County as an example. When you select on that county, then your graphs related to the data that you've entered accomplishments on can be found here. Right, we are requesting that you ask for graphs. We'll build the graphs for you. Some graphs will be built just based on, there are some, what's the word I'm looking for? Some templates that we will automatically produce just based on things that we have to provide reporting on. But if there is something there as you go along that is not quite what you need, you have specific needs or specific data that you would like to provide reporting on, then you can request that. And I will say that every question, just about every question in the form that you're completing, you can request a graph based on that. So if you want to know how much media or have you implemented into your community? You can find that out. If you want to know what specific target audiences have you been addressing, that can be immediate. If you just simply want to know how many entries have we recorded into the community checkbox, that's something that we can provide a graph or create a graph towards. Any questions on the graphing area? Okay, we'll go back. You also notice that you won't interact with all of the buttons here under Create Graph. It will only be accomplishment. Under View, you can view your accomplishments, or you can review graphs. Under Report, the dashboard. So we'll take a look at the dashboard now. And you'll see that for you guys, the planning grantees, most of your graphs are empty. It's because you haven't started your work yet. But this just gives everyone sort of a bird's eye view, or a view of what's going on, not only with yourselves, but with other communities, with other grantees who are receiving funding from KDADS. And so as you begin to enter your accomplishments and we begin to build graphs, then you'll be able to go here and take a look at that. The first time accomplishments, and we talked about one of the things that the importance of adding information in the community checkboxes so that you can highlight your successes. That's what those first time activities help you do. Someone mentioned coding earlier. If you kind of know a little bit about that, you'll be able to see what type of codes have been applied to your accomplishments. And again, just the number of accomplishments, that you've entered into the community checkbox. One thing I do want to show you is I didn't open a graph and actually show you the information that's associated with graphs. We'll do Feeney County again. So one thing about graphs, I think you saw those numbers. So another thing that happens with the graphs, one of the questions, the tough questions that communities have issues with answering is how much media, frequency, and there's another one, and that's why it took so much time, and so we need to go back and do a little technical assistance, but that helps us help you when you're entering data in there and things might be a little off. We can say, hey, we don't think you meant to answer this question this way. It gives you a way to look at, I think I had more accomplishments than that, but the graph is showing this. So when you're looking at the graph information, you're also able to scroll down and see what accomplishments are related to those particular graphs. The numbers that you see here, if you're trying to figure out how many accomplishments did we enter in the month of June, this number is not going to be the number that you're going to look at. That number is always related to frequency. So we can tell that that number is just always related to frequency. And so when you're looking at a graph and you're trying to figure out what is it showing me, you can scroll down here and find those accomplishments. We ask that you not change graphs behind the edit graph button. That's where all the work is done to produce the correct information for you. But if we build a graph for you and you want to look at a different range, you're more than welcome to change the date range here. Anything you change above apply, once you select apply, And I didn't show you where it was going out to December, but now you can see it's only going out to October here. So you're more than welcome to do that. The title of the graph, if you want to look at something different, just give us a holler, let us know. If there are graphs that we are using for reporting, we have the do not modify. You're welcome to look at them, but we just ask that you not modify any of the graphs that are specifically named that or have that name associated with them. So Priya, Chad, is there anything related to the workstation or the community checkbox that maybe I missed?
I can't think of anything that you missed, Dola, offhand
Okay.
for the purpose of this training at this point. I know that it sounds a little bit abstract. It's technical and abstract at the same time. But I think you've done a good job, and I hope that it makes more sense to folks when they go through the planning, the assessment and capacity training next week, that it will start to maybe start to come off the page a little bit, come off the screen some.
Right. So now at the end of our training, my slide wants to work. And hold on just one second. Let's go back. This is the one I want to show you. It's interesting. So this particular slide is just a reminder that at the end of each week, all of your entries are due for the week into the community checkbox. By the 10th, we begin reviewing your entries, and by the end of the month, you should receive feedback from us. This is what the feedback, actually, we've changed it, I think, to make it a little easier, but you will receive in your link, it's not going to come in an email, a report. It'll look like this Excel file here. You'll have a column that will talk about comments. You'll also get an email if we are needing you to respond back. And in that email, we'll provide a couple of dates for you to select from to have a technical assistance call with either myself or Priya. And this is our team, or that was our team, shown on the slide there. Jamela Watson, whoever asked about coding has probably been around long enough to have met Jamela, and then myself and Priya. Any other questions? We started a little late, and it looks like we're getting through a little early. So that's good. You get 20 minutes back in your day. Sometimes that's just really important to me. So if there are not any questions, I don't see any other questions in the chat. Again, Chad will upload this training. Let me show you right quick where that will be. Just a reminder, because I think we did view this in our last training. But you'll be able to go to the table of contents at the workstation. And somewhere listed along here will be the training is just not uploading now. You'll be able to find the training for today to go back and review if you have questions. And I think I've said it many, many times. We are really open to questions. So you guys, you can use the discussion board to ask us questions or email. And most of the times we'll guide your questions back to the discussion board when you use email, because if you had the question, then somebody else probably did too. So we're all about supporting one another. And that's all I have for today. did mention earlier, every time I say that, I think of something else, but I did mention earlier that at the end of the month, you'll have your monthly reports. You'll just go back to your link, and that's where Priya or I will be uploading your reports. You'll have a folder there. So that link is used, sharing information between not only KU, but some of the other contractors as well. So Chad, I'll hand it back over to you before I think of one more thing.
That's awesome. my team at work, they've joked with me over times about my add-on for agenda. As soon as we wrap up, or start to wrap up, I might have other things that I think about. So I'm glad to know that others do the same.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dola. That was a lot of information, and it's going to be really useful for these folks for the rest of this year, especially, and future years for prevention projects. If they're if they figure out how to do this and do it well, and hopefully we'll be able to keep it going. So my closing comments are just that an appreciation for Dola and Priya and KU and their team with handling a lot of these things that are very technical and would be a lot more difficult if we didn't have the support of your partner agency. And to the folks from DECA that are on the webinar today, the virtual meeting today, thank you for joining and for helping us all get where we needed to be. And then for the planning grantees, I really do appreciate you taking time and dedicating that time to this required webinar training event for the KPC with your KPCCI planning project. It will be really valuable. If you haven't seen it yet, you'll see it in the future, and you'll be able to use this data in a lot of ways that could help your community. So it's all related, all connected, and the KPC partners and KDADs want to be as supportive as we're needed and can be. So let us know, send emails to us, and with the workstation and checkbox, probably the questions will end up going to Dola or Priya, but you're welcome to share those with any of the partner agencies, the contacts that you have, and we'll make sure that we get it in the right place for a response. I will wrap the recording of this webinar and share it online on the workstation, and then share it in a follow-up email to the planning grantee contacts so that you have that for later use. Thank you for your time, and we will wrap up.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Chad, do I need to stay on, or I can sign off and you can?
Yeah, you can
You'll
sign
do
off,
it.
and I'll keep it open for a bit, and then I'll close it when people leave.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Bye, Chad. Bye, Dola.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Priya.
Sure, I have the notes and I'll email it to you.